Meeting. It is February 5th, 2026, and this is our regular meeting for the beginning of the month. Ryan, would you please take roll call?
Mayor Dame.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Zielinski. Councillor Townsley. Councillor Schmall. Councillor Schachter.
Here.
Councillor Smith. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ryan. And I've been presented with a speaker list for the items that are not on the agenda, and I see additional people. Would you like to put your name on this list? We'll hand it back to Ryan. He'll collect the signatures or the names, and we'll go from there. Any changes to the agenda? Councillor Schmall.
Mayor, I would move to remove item 6C from the consent agenda for tonight's meeting.
Okay, everybody clear on removing item C from the consent? We have a motion. I'm entertaining a second. Councillor Townsley?
Second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion about the item, or should we just have a vote? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. And those opposed? We'll see none. Thank you, Councillor Schmall. We're going to move it to aquatic nuisance. No, we're going to move it in before 9. Move it in before 9. I think it'll fit there. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Any conflicts of interest? You'll see none. Also good. Moving on to item 4, and that is citizens appearing before council for items that are not on the agenda. And I have a list of 4 speakers tonight. You get 3 minutes. Please stay within that time frame. And Zodi Woolsey is first. Please, in the microphone, state your name and whether you live in the city limits or not.
Hello, my name is Zodi Woolsey. I live in Glenwood Springs. And I'm here to make some comments about the discussions regarding the flock cameras and just other cameras for ALPRs in general. For one, I am a software engineer of 15 years, and I know how a lot of these softwares are designed, and a lot of times they aren't up to the standards of security that they should be, especially for things like this. Police officers and ICE agents can easily look up people's home addresses, where they've been over the past months and months and months, no matter where they are. Contracts with groups like Flock are not region-based. They are actually based on an interaction with the company. So if your police officers here install Flock cameras or whatever, and someone in Florida even wants to access the data about your citizens here, they can access that with no issue. So one of the things I wanted to bring up was that this access needs to be put through some sort of situation like how body cameras are on police officers. If they're allowed to approach and collect private data autonomously or in person, there should be some level of accountability and just, integrity in this situation. It is an invasion of personal privacy if that's not the case, and I think that these things should be monitored to make sure that there's no misconduct. Additionally, I think that a good way to go about this would be to, as we all know, laws are only a matter of issue whenever it is enforced properly. And so I want to state that a good idea would be to audit them publicly. I am an open source developer, so I work in the public space entirely and completely for free. And I will say that having all of my stuff aired out constantly has made me a better developer and a better person. And I think that that same type of moral belief should follow us into matters that are much more important than that. I make a video game. These are not video games. These are real people's lives that we are dealing with, and potentially pictures of their private spaces, like their vehicles and routes to their homes and their addresses and things. And there's already been a Flock breach that was quite minor. And I just think that it's not up to the standard. So they need to be either avoided, removed, or properly managed with a clean paper trail that can be audited for cases or by the public to make sure that everyone is maintaining integrity and safety for the public. Additionally, I wanted to bring up some issues that were separate, which is the Midland Avenue ICE location, which is a small detention center located inside of a shopping mall next to the former thrift store over in that location. And I think a lot of people aren't aware that people are being detained and held there like it is a small prison for 12 or more hours, which my group has seen personally. And I think that that is a major issue of safety in that area, especially considering that it is next to the Social Security office. I think that it should be really
15
relocated.
seconds.
Okay, thank you. And I think it should be relocated somewhere that is safer or more reasonable. I doubt these people would want to know violent criminals, as they say, are being held in the same building as their local mom and pop shop. And I think that's just not safe. And I think that everyone should be held more accountable in all of these situations. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much for being here, Zodi Woolsey. And we're gonna comment at the end. So now we have Tracy Zabel. Please also state your name for the record and whether you live in city limits or not.
Okay, hi, my name is Tracy Zabel. I am a resident of Carbondale, but I spend a lot of time in Glenwood Springs and consider it a part of my community. I have concerns about the flock cameras and collecting mass surveillance data. We currently have a federal government who is lying to us and gaslighting us as a federal agency kidnaps and murders people with impunity. Why would we trust that they will honor our contract and the data privacy provisions therein? Some situations, like in Denver, they had previously denied that cameras would be used for immigration enforcement before audit logs revealed that Denver cameras had been accessed more than 1,400 times for that express purpose in a matter of 13 months. Flock audits in Washington state revealed backdoor access by U.S. Border Patrol to the networks of at least 10 Washington police departments, which did not explicitly authorize Border Patrol searches of their network data. Data breaches were brought up today in the working session, and we said that if a data breach were to occur, we would sever the contract, but that feels reactive and not proactive when people are being rounded up and put in detention centers. In Dilley, Texas, there's a detention center with more than 1,400 people, including infants as young as 2 months, 400 children. There's a current measles outbreak in there. The conditions are so poor. There's water, food, and hygiene are bad, and people are forced to sleep in community with the lights on for 24 hours a day. That is torture. Right now, the Transactional Records Clearinghouse says that there's 71,000 people in ICE detention, and 74% of those people do not have a criminal conviction. Many of those committed of a crime, they're minor offenses like traffic violations. And being an undocumented person is a civil offense. It does not warrant being held in what can be likened to a concentration camp. If the plan is to deport people, why are they buying warehouses that will hold 8,000 to 10,000 people and building new facilities in every state? We have to be proactively against this, and that means standing up against mass surveillance systems in a justice system that does not respect human life. If we do not, we are complicit in these crimes against humanity. I know several people who are afraid to leave their house, and when they do, they carry their passports because of the color of their skin. And even then, they are violently apprehended. And even if you're not holding a valid passport, you deserve to be treated with dignity and respect and not be held in a center. I'd like to end with a quote from the book by Omar El-Akkad titled, "One Day, Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This." It is a hallmark of failing societies, I've learned, a requirement that one must always be in possession of a valid reason to exist. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for being here. Maya Hunt. Please also state your name for the record and whether you live in city limits or not.
Hello, my name is Maya Hunt and I live in Glenwood in city limits. And I also just wanted to register some support for what people are saying about the flock cameras. And I think that you have this like huge, giant pressing reason that's happening right now, which is the corruption related to immigration enforcement in this country right now. This is the kind of thing that if we didn't have this actively going on right now, we would be here like trying to explain to you how these cameras could be used for corrupt purposes. But like we already have the proof of concept. So please take this like really seriously. Like it's already unfolding right in front of us. Like these are being used to track people down and do things that are against all the community values that I know of living here. I don't want this for people who visit our city. I don't want it for people who live in our town. Sorry, I spent a year in a city. I'm so glad to be back. But now these cameras are here. So I really, I just really want you to reconsider the path that this is on. My request is that you immediately end everything to do with these cameras. There's way too many loopholes. And I mean, I'd love to get into details more, but just trying to give this overview right now of like how many concerns there are. And like beyond what's happening with immigration enforcement, like I don't want it to be public record, like how many times I drive down Midland, or like, and like these things have like the data has been ruled as like public record data. So even if you say that you will protect the data, there's so many ways that it could get out that I mean, even if you're doing like due diligence on foreseeing how this could be used, there's way too many issues that can happen even with like good faith actors, and there's like way too many bad faith actors in the government right now. No offense, but like the government is also broader, but like I really want you to be part of the shield that is like promoting community safety, not introducing mass surveillance devices. I really want to be here requesting that you don't allow anyone to use them, not be the actors who are like introducing these into our city. And I do want to mention that just I was reading an article today, it happened like stuff got released today, yesterday, in California. They had like one of the cameras at one intersection had the toggle that was set to share with the national database. So then it just was for weeks. And then there was like some other issues too, just a bunch of technical info, but like that's how easy it is. And like I want to opt out. I'm not opting into this. Unfortunately, if I want to exist publicly in Glenwood, you are forcing this upon me. And I'm not okay with it. I want to like opt out of privacy data. Please take this seriously. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time being here. And last one, Dawn Dexter. Please state your name and just state your name for the record and let us know whether you live in city limits.
Hi, my name is Dawn Dexter. I do not currently live in city limits, but I pass through and by the speed cameras numerous times a day. My grandchildren go to school in Glenwood Springs. I work in Glenwood Springs. My husband works in Glenwood Springs. So all of us pass through Glenwood Springs and through the cameras numerous times a day. I'm here tonight to urge the council to immediately terminate the speed camera program due to serious civil liberties concerns and the demonstrated threat that this surveillance infrastructure poses to vulnerable community members, not just people who may be here undocumented, but we've seen the Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers and the Department of Homeland Security officers targeting people just based on their skin color, based on their political ideology. We've seen this administration target people of color in all walks of life. We've seen this administration disregard the law in just numerous ways. And we have a leader of these organizations who have told them that they have complete immunity. They're disregarding due process. How do we even know if someone's here illegally or not if they are not given due process? We've seen people who are doing it the right way be detained at their citizenship, like where they were going to be granted citizenship, and at their like citizenship swearing in ceremonies. And we've seen political dissidents be targeted now. So it's not a question of immigration. I've just gone completely off what I wrote down, but what I really want to ask for is to consider that this is not just, it's not an immigration issue anymore. It's a racial profiling issue, and it's a political dissident issue. It's disabled person's issue. It's a trans person's issue. What I'd like to see the council do is immediately terminate the speed camera program, delete all existing data that's been collected through the system, prohibit future automated surveillance systems without rigorous civil liberties impact assessments and community consent, and publicly commit to refusing cooperation with this federal administration and its lawlessness. And yes, traffic safety measures are important, but they should not come at the cost of civil liberties, political freedom, or racial justice. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you very much for being here. Anybody else from the public like to come forward? If not, I'll close the public portion for tonight's meeting, bring it back to council for any responses. And Yeah, you got it. There you go. We'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski, and maybe we'll also have John Hassel if he's up for it to
Yeah.
respond to a few things.
I was actually going to invite John to speak only because there's a few clarifications. There's just a little bit of misinformation around like how long the data is held, what data is being collected, what programs we're talking about. And so I would like just some of that clarification to come from Officer Hassel, please.
And before you start, maybe I'll throw in, please a distinction between the speed cameras and the flock system.
Yeah.
That's probably.
Good evening, Council. John Hassel with the Police Department, Glenwood Springs. So first, I'd like to discuss the differences between flock safety and DACRA technology, which are two separate independent companies. Flock Safety is a company that capture and retain information for a period of 30 days within our purview to either search or be alerted for any criminal activity that has happened with that vehicle, whether that vehicle is stolen. There are amber alerts, silver alerts, gang-related ties that we can alert our officers that they're in the area. So we have used it to capture literally well over 100 incidents that we've resolved crimes. Very different than speed cameras. Speed cameras are solely in place to capture vehicle speeds of a certain threshold. We record that information, we document it, we send them a civil penalty assessment, and that is it. There's really nothing more to the speed cameras than that.
And you can talk about the audit, because I think that was brought up. How do we know that data is secured and not having been accessed by outside agencies?
So I believe I'm aware of, was it Maya? Spoke about with this agency in Northern California that they claim that somehow Flock allowed another agency to access their cameras. I've been part of this program since 2022, the end of 2022. I know that all access is done through our department. So if somebody wants access to that camera, they have to request it and we have to permit it. That said, sometimes we will get 100 at a time asking for permission, typically out of state at this point. And there have been times that we've accepted all of them, and then we have to go back through and check to make sure that those agencies are people that we want to share with. In October, we decided to revoke all out-of-state agencies as well as any federal agencies, so that they did not have access to that. So if anyone were able to get into our system, it was because we gave permission to do that. And I know the engineering,
Zodi,
but I'm a software engineer. Thank you. Talked a little bit about how people can access that. But we've never had an incident of that. He did speak about the brief data breach, but it was more of a camera breach specifically to the Condor cameras, not the Falcon LPR readers.
And I also heard a request for like a little bit more transparency in a public audit. And so isn't the intent, there's currently a page that has just been built for information, and will those audits be available on that page?
Yes, and I haven't checked to see if it's been published yet or not, but our website should have a page where you can see who has access to all of our cameras. I go through consistently to verify, one, if there's any new requests, and then two, what are people looking at our cameras for?
Yep.
Through a network audit as well as an organizational audit.
So I brought up all of those questions, like listening to all the points that you made. I've been receiving comment on this for several weeks now, and I've been relaying all of that comment to law enforcement, to city administration, and we are very responsive to those concerns. We share those concerns. It's a fine balance of safety versus security, right? And so, with recognizing that, we're doing our very, very best to continue to address those concerns in real time in a way that maintains that tool for law enforcement, along with protecting the security and the information of the public.
Sorry. But just to double up quick, if I may, I know one of the commenters was here this afternoon. I think I recognize you from sitting in the back. So you heard what we're after. You heard the the due diligence we're doing to make sure that really this data is only handled by our police department. I mean, ask the lady at Flock, what do you do with our data? She said absolutely nothing. We have a chance to redline their contract and make sure that this doesn't happen. So like Mayor Pro Tem said, we are doing everything we can to make this as secure as possible. I encourage the rest of you to listen to the recording from this afternoon. I think you may learn something out of it, and look up or be aware of an upcoming agenda where we actually discuss the cameras on the dais in great lengths to make sure that we do the best thing that we can do with our help from law enforcement and administration. So thank you, unless you have something to add.
If I could just say that we've extended this to council, but we extend it to anyone in the community. If they have questions about, they can come talk to me directly. I can show them what we see, what we have access to. If it's private data that we run through or that Siege is compliant, that we can't provide that to the general public, but we are happy to show anything with Flock.
Okay, thank you for that invitation. Councillor Townsley, please.
John, one quick question for you. Did I understand you correctly to say that we are now all out-of-state requests for information are categorically denied?
They are.
Okay, and that, if that was ever to change, would that come back to us as a request to change that, or?
Yeah, I would have no problem coming back and asking about that, but we have no intentions of opening that up.
Okay. No,
There's
think
really
that's
no need for it.
I think
unless-
that's a good thing. And
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Schachter, please.
Couple things. One, in response to what just came up. One of the things from our workshop is, with the assistance of council, we are going to review the contract with Flock to see if it needs to be tightened, and there are some national standards for additional security, so we'll be reviewing that as well. In addition to that, I must say, it's very, let's not jump to conflate what we are doing for public safety is condoning what's happening nationally. They are two different things. And here at the dais, I think we're doing our best to weigh what's the best for Glenwood's residents' public safety, even though at times it does get conflated with national policy that we may or may not agree with. And that's what we're wrestling with right now. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. And Councillor Schmall.
John, does denying, excuse me, other states access compromise our ability to know who's coming through I-70, coming through our town? What I'm hearing is that if Utah has a plate that they want to track, or they think has gone through their state, or Nebraska or one of the adjacent states thinks they're coming and they're looking for them, are we impairing our ability to know or their ability to know that that vehicle's going through by denying automatically?
So there's a couple different levels there. If Utah wanted to find out if a vehicle is traveling through, they would have to contact us and say, hey, can we check your cameras to see for this specific car, one time only? We would take that under consideration. If it's impacting us, if it's a vehicle that's stolen or wanted or abducted child, they enter their license plate into a national database that says, hey, this car has something associated to it that's criminal and we need it stopped or contacted, much like we had the vehicle come from Denver on a homicide a few weeks ago. That alerts us, whether they're part of our system or not. We're all tied to what's called NCIC, CCIC, which is the National Crime Information Center, Colorado Crime Information Center. And those alerts tell us that, hey, there's a vehicle that needs to be contacted. Does that answer your question?
I think it does. I think it's not compromising our ability to improve our safety situation here.
I don't think it is.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any more responses to this? See none. Okay, great. So we'll close this up completely. Thank you, Chief Hassel. Thank you guys for being here, and please look for the agenda. I think it's a month out, Carl.
My goal is to have it back on the agenda in a month with some proposed changes to the Flock contract for you guys to consider and decide where you want to go with this.
Okay, sounds great. So beginning of March, the first meeting in March, please look at the website for the agenda. So, okay, thank you very much. We're moving on to item number 5 tonight, which is council announcements. No, if you want to, yeah. Any announcements? Start with Councilor Smith.
Thank you. The Transportation Commission, which normally meets first Tuesday of the month, postponed their meeting from day before yesterday until next Tuesday. So if you're interested in tracking that commission and its work, it'll be on the 10th. The highlights of their agenda is going to be to focus on refining, maybe finalizing their list of specific bicycle and pedestrian, bicycle infrastructure gaps and needs they think provide a threshold before the city invests in a formal bike share program. And then the second item they're just beginning to take on is trail safety for bicycles and pedestrians, especially in general, but especially as it relates to the growing number, size, weight, and speed of electric assist bicycles. So they're taking on some pretty juicy topics on the 10th. I will be as liaison to that commission. I have scheduled an interview with a citizen who has applied to join the Transportation Commission. We'll be doing that interview tomorrow here at 1 o'clock. So if any other council members or staffers would like to join in that conversation, we'll be interviewing her as a possible addition to the commission. Carolyn Sipperly last week sat in very actively on her final meeting as a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission. She didn't lose a step, didn't pause. She was fully engaged as she has been for 6 years. An impressive example of volunteer citizen service to the community, but on that particular important board especially. She continues as the chair of the city's Historic Preservation Commission, so that tenacity and that thoroughness in doing homework is something we'll still benefit from. But she concluded a very productive career on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I think.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
Okay, so looking ahead, springtime river cleanup, April 25th. Mark your calendars.
April what? Sorry.
25th. Saturday, April 25th from 8
Okay.
to noon. This is like the pre-cleanup. So we still do the big River Fest, which is like the big one. But this is the post runoff, which may be a non-event, but still it's a good opportunity to get in there and like pre-clean. So there's that. And then also, okay. So I was encouraged to add my name to, my memory is so poor, to a letter in support of local management of rents. I think right now at the state level, this is not something that is manageable locally. And this would just be, it's part of the Fair Housing for All, I think is the name of the organization. But I wanted to run that by my fellow counselors. I think that it's one of those tools that might make sense in our quiver. And so I encourage you all to look into it. I believe Counselor Shatner has already added his name to that. Is that correct?
I've added my name to support the ability of towns to choose whether or
Right.
not to implement rent stabilization.
Yes. And
Not
at this point,
necessarily that we would adopt that, and never speaking for the city.
right. And at this point, it's not even to support that, support the conversation of possibly considering that. So it's kind of like making a motion for discussion, but I wanted to bring that to everybody's awareness.
Is this a letter we should discuss at some point? Is this worth a workshop item for a few minutes? Is this something that's developing somewhere, or what do we need to do with it?
Not till there's a new governor.
That's what I was saying.
Okay, got it.
Like rise to the legislative level, but at this point, it's still in consideration.
Okay, so we'll leave it where it's at, probably at this point.
15
Okay,
minute
great.
workshop.
Yeah. Councilor Townsley.
Just real quick, Parks and Rec met last night and they're looking at trying to set priorities for 2026. They asked me to pass on if there were any particular issues that other council members had as far as Parks Rec things that you wanted to have them take a look at. If there was anything that was a priority to council, to get back to them with that. So I'll put that out there. If you do have pieces, issues, parks, places, obviously the budget is very tight this year. So they're not looking for ways to spend a lot of money, but if there are prioritizing, events or things that people would like us to look at, then they would like to know that.
And how would we let them know? Right now, or you,
Through
or
me,
email,
through
or?
now, if you, emailing Rod,
Directly.
any which way that you want it to is fine.
Okay, I think that could work. Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
Sorry, I forgot. Okay, so here's another just like FYI, but I know right now like drought and water conditions are on everybody's minds. And I learned about an interesting resource, Roaring Fork Conservancy. If you go to their website and you go onto, I think it's like under snowpack and stream flows, you can subscribe to a weekly report, which will give you an update on kind of, the conditions of our waterways and our snowpack. And it just, I think we're all like, is front and present in our minds. And so I thought that would be a very useful bit of information to have.
Sounds good, thank you. Any other announcements? We'll see none. We'll move on to the consent agenda. I'm entertaining a motion in the consent agenda tonight without item C.
I move
Ye-
to approve.
Excellent. We have motion approved. Council Schachter.
Second?
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, we'll see none. Brings us to our first action or presentation for tonight, and we'll start with item 7, Planning and Zoning Commission appointments. And I don't know if if Mr. Hyatt wants to give a quick info on that.
I'm happy to. I saw folks looking at me, so it was expected. Trent Hyatt with Community Development.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your interview this afternoon. We've made a request from staff that we have 3 positions right now we're dealing with. One to fill Carolyn Sipperly, who recently termed out from the commission. We're asking that Patrick Corcoran be appointed from an alternate to a full member, as well as a new person to fill that role, and that would be Kyle Jones, who you interviewed earlier this afternoon. And let's see who else, and then a reappointment of Connie Gaiman, who is currently serving and at the end of her first term.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. That's the information. And I have Councilor Schachter.
I would move that council approve the Planning and Zoning Commission appointments of Connie Gaiman and Patrick Corcoran as full-time members and Kyle Jones as an alternate.
We have a motion to approve these appointments, and Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? We'll start with Councilor Smith.
Thank you. I'm inclined to support this motion because of the substance and because of the people involved. We did indeed have a very thoughtful and thoughtful conversation with new applicant, Mr. Jones, this afternoon, group interview in effect. And his answers were, I thought, very thoughtful and a bit visionary, frankly. So I think he can make a good addition. I also, from what I've been able to watch on selective occasions, the 2 other current member and alternate for the commission are all similarly thoughtful. I had pitched earlier in the afternoon that it would be helpful and I think very productive to have interviews or some form of deliberate interaction with any member who is seeking appointment or reappointment or reassignment when that process comes around, as different from just automatically reappointing. I think more than any sort of screening or criticism, indeed not screening or criticism, but instead an opportunity for that positive conversation and interaction, that we can stay better acquainted with these people on this very important commission. So I'll continue to recommend that in future cycles of this, we approach it a little differently. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments to this? With the, well, we have a motion and a second to do the appointments, and then a comment from Counselor Smith about maybe inviting the reappointments or the alternate to regular seats in for a quick chat. I can just say that no, it's not part of the motion at all. And I could just say that in the past, we have not necessarily done that anymore, just because be cognizant of everybody's time and effort. And if a council or previous council appoints somebody to a commission, then they did that in good faith, and it's usually a done deal. So, but maybe this is a discussion we can have at some other time, so we can move forward with the motion. Okay. So with that, I will call for the question.
It's unanimous, 6-0.
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, thank you, Kyle. You've been appointed. Thanks to Connie and Patrick for your reappointment. And then I would just like to thank Carolyn Zipperly for the last 6 years of being on P&Z. I have spent some time with her on the P&Z, and she was a great team member. And like Councillor Smith said, full of energy and visionary, and thank you so much for your efforts. So we appreciate it. Thank you. Moving on to item 8, aquatic nuisance species. That does not sound like fun, but we can't wait to hear about it. So
Yeah, sorry for not bringing a little more levity to the conversation than
it's
this.
all good. Please let us know who you are.
Yes, thank you. My name is Madeline Baker. I am an invasive species specialist for Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and I've
Thank
got
you.
the support of some of my colleagues, so I'll let them introduce myself before I start talking.
Thank you.
I'm Becca Cass. I am the local CPW wildlife officer that's assigned to Glenwood Springs.
And I'm Paula Stepp. I am on the Glenwood Springs River Commission, and this presentation came as a result of our concern for the zebra mussels in the Colorado River and its potential impact on the city of Glenwood Springs.
Thank you. And
America Gibson. I'm chair of the River Commission. I'm sick. I'm sorry. So,
well, thanks for being here then. All of you, thank you for being here.
All right, I will do my best to move through these with relative ease here. Forgive me as I work through actually putting this into presentation mode, if you don't mind. Okay. So the goal of the Aquatic Nuisance Species Program is ultimately to prevent the introduction of aquatic nuisance species to Colorado and manage any populations that do make it in. We do this through watercraft inspection and decontamination. If anybody boats at Rudeye Reservoir, you've experienced this. Education and outreach, including the distribution of some self-serve cleaning stations for folks who are not legally obligated to be inspected, but may pose a risk of transporting aquatic nuisance species. Just a quick overview of the life cycle, because it will inform what we worry about when it comes to infrastructure and transport of these species and how these can affect municipal water supplies and raw water systems that pull from places like the Colorado River, where we have found these species. We sample for what we call veligers, which are the larval form of this species. When they are juveniles, all they do is float through the water, and they are microscopic. This is why people like rafters, kayakers, even anglers can pose a risk of transporting these species, and why we do lots of public outreach with these groups to try to prevent their continued spread. As adults, these species attach to surfaces with what we call byssal threads, so they do not move, they live below the waterline, and the concern that this poses for things like municipal water infrastructure is that they can attach themselves on the insides of pipes and raw water systems pulling water from the Colorado River. This can pose a huge risk of just completely compacting pipes and interfering with water supply, damaging hydroelectric facilities, etc. So these can be making costs in the tens of millions for even just municipalities and partners. So where does this stand for us right now? This all started in 2022, 6 days after I accepted this job, when we found the very first adult zebra mussel in Highline Lake, west of Grand Junction. At the time, we thought this was an isolated incident at Highline and attempted an eradication, but later realized that this was coming from further upstream. We detected them in the canal system that diverts from the Colorado River to feed Highline Lake, and then later on in the Colorado River. At this point, the furthest location upstream that we've detected these species is at a privately owned body of water in Eagle County. So right now, the Colorado River is considered infested with zebra mussels from its confluence with the Eagle River all the way to the state line with Utah, which poses a great concern for any municipality that might be pulling water from the Colorado River. What are we doing about it? Our best. We are adapting infrastructure at Highline Lake to increase the experience for the general user. Now that every single boat needs to be decontaminated on their way out of Highline, that can make for very long wait times coming out. So we're getting a $1.4 million hot tub to back that boat into and make a decontamination last closer to 10 minutes rather than somewhere over an hour. We are also implementing a really robust non-motorized user outreach program. Here in Colorado, watercraft that are not motorized or that do not launch from a trailer that goes into the water are not required to be inspected. Simply from an enforcement perspective, how do you get every single person with a blow-up paddleboard to stop for inspection before they launch on the river or elsewhere? We are trying to put out as many self-serve cleaning stations as possible that give people the tools to clean their own gear and the knowledge to do so, as well as deploying outreach technicians on the field to encourage them to use these pieces of equipment, as well as provide some additional insight. So I will be having one outreach technician that is placed at Two Rivers Park this year, contacting recreators and letting them know what they can do to simply not make it worse. We do also have what's called a CD3, which stands for Clean, Drain, Dry, and Dispose. It is a really awesome solar-powered trailered unit that we have at Two Rivers Park right now with the help of Dan Roper, and I believe there's 2 rods in the Parks Department. So with all of their help, we've gotten that implemented, and I think it's been getting some attention and use out there, which is what we want. We've added more full-time positions to our program in a time of low state funding, to say the least, just in an attempt to bolster our sampling efforts. Ultimately, every yellow pin that we see is a place that we have identified as a potential location for infestation in the Grand Valley alone. We will be, with landowner permission, trying to sample as many of these 1,300 or so bodies of water as we possibly can to get the best idea of the infestation as possible. This can only happen with landowner permission, so a lot of our public outreach is in the effort of encouraging people to let us onto their property, and with the understanding that there's not going to be consequences if we find zebra mussels, but we really just want to understand what's happening and give people the opportunities to help manage these before they their infrastructure has some really, really serious expensive impacts. We're also trying to increase our media campaigns, broaden the message, let people know that this is not just about recreators. This is about anybody that needs water to survive. We have been making lots of educational videos targeted at different user groups like anglers, kayakers, rafters, waterfowl hunters, irrigators, just to let them know that this is an everybody issue and not just if you like floating the river issue. So there's some examples of those. There's some of our CD3 gear cleaning stations that allow people to clean, drain, and dry their watercraft in between uses. These are free, and Colorado Parks and Wildlife is doing everything that we can to get these distributed as widely as we can, including by donating them to different folks to get that message out and give people the tools that they need. So ultimately, why do we care about this? This can mean the difference between getting water to municipalities or not, to generating hydroelectric power or not. So this issue has cost the Great Lakes region hundreds of millions of dollars annually. This is something that we don't necessarily have built into the budget to deal with, so we're doing everything that we can to mitigate these before they happen. The best thing that municipalities can do to support us in these efforts are to let us know what raw water systems you have, giving us permission to sample within or around those systems so that we can get an understanding of how those systems might be affected and try to take some sort of preventative action that's going to prevent major impacts or outages because of it. Now I've got a little QR code that links to Colorado Parks and Wildlife's page for gear cleaning tips. That is my personal information where you can make reports about sightings to species. You can make requests for sampling. Several folks with the with the city of Glenwood have my contact information. So I would just encourage anybody that might be interested in having us sample some of your facilities or give me a little bit more information about what sort of raw water use the city is using from the Colorado River. We can help be a partner. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Lots of information. Thank you very much. Back to council questions too. Let's see, Councilor Schmall, Ms. Baker.
Can somebody tell me the lifespan of the Verligia?
The villagers.
Villager out
yeah.
of water.
So outside of water, villagers cannot survive. This is why we encourage folks to clean, drain, and dry their gear. If there is even a moist rolled up paddleboard or anywhere that's retaining moisture, like internal compartments, the floors of rafts that hold a lot of water, ballasts of a boat, if there's any moisture, they can survive nearly indefinitely. And then adult zebra mussels can survive for 30 days outside of the water. So this is how they made it to the West Coast, by attaching to watercraft that were then transported somewhere in the West within a 30-day window.
That answers my second question. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Hey, Councilor Smith.
Thank you. It was very clear and quick. You mentioned in your presentation and in one of your slides that a primary problem with these critters is water and power infrastructure. Are they also a biological problem? Are they displacing other aquatic species or causing
Yes.
difficulties in that way?
Yes, absolutely. With a short window of time, I try to focus mostly on what's going to cost us the most money, but these will certainly degrade water quality by removing plankton from the system. They can exacerbate harmful algal blooms by removing the competition amongst other plankton for those toxic blue-green algae, so reducing water quality, increasing harmful algal blooms, as well as outcompeting native benthic or bottom-dwelling invertebrates. But not everyone cares as much about the native snails as they do about their taxes going up or their water bills going up. So I tend not to focus on that one first. But I appreciate you asking, because it does matter.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
So talking about native snails, I'm curious. I live over in Park West neighborhood, and I know like our storm drains go directly into 3 Mile. And I've heard that through some sampling, there are some species that no longer exist in 3 Mile. And I'm wondering, with like concerns of drought and now some invasive species, if maybe it's something that we should consider maybe putting, I don't know if there's like sand filters or things that we can do that might help that. I don't know if there's if that would be something that we should look into. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, Colorado Parks and Wildlife we are learning a lot about living amongst these species as well, and not a lot of other states that deal with them are going to the lengths that we are to try to mitigate them. But we can certainly advise on different techniques to try to exclude the villagers from systems. It is difficult because they're microscopic, so it can be anything from sand filters to UV filters to even preemptive copper sulfate treatments, just depending on the use of the water and the potential impacts of whatever mitigation we're attempting. So we're open to the conversation of advising and helping.
I'm a Michigan native, so when I heard zebra mussels, I was like, no. So yeah, I feel like aggressive is the best response.
Thank you. Have you sampled our water?
Yes. So we have now have a Western Slope-based sampling crew. They used to only be based out of Denver and would travel statewide to sample. And historically, we've not always sampled as many moving waters as we have lakes and reservoirs. We have been expanding to sampling more moving waters and getting more saturated sampling on the Western Slope. So we've done pretty extensive efforts in the Roaring Fork and Frying Pan, in the Colorado River, all the way from its headwaters down to the state line. So any suggestions or areas that you think could use some more attention, we're certainly open to.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Let's see. Erica, please.
I forget how these things go. I should have jumped up earlier, but just wanted to add from the river commissions. And by the way, this is a baby cold, so I'm not like deathly sick. But it's a little bit of a terrifying position that we're facing right now. So just on the river commission's perspective, just want to let you know this is zoomed up once we had Becca. Becca's now going to be coming every morning at 7:30 once a month as our contact for CPW. But when Maddie said we, she means Maddie and Becca. That's we. So it is, don't think we have like the full force of the state. So we're trying to think from the River Commission's perspective on, and advising you guys, or giving thoughts or whatever, that we need to do something, and public outreach is going to be a big priority for us this year. And then also partnering with other organizations like Middle Colorado, Roaring Fork Conservancy, hopefully other communities. So this is to get at it now. If you could see Becca's face when she first told us about it, we're like, now what? This is something to focus on. So anyway, just want to, if you all have thoughts, but this will be one of our kind of new priorities for the year. So.
Okay, thank you. I'm just curious, is there anything we're doing? I mean, are we helping? Are we doing anything? Is educational? What's this? Or is this so new for us as well, right?
Well, it's a little new for us, yeah. I thought, though, I made a couple of notes, and I thought I'll check in with Parks and Rec and Dan Roper specifically and see, if we need to spend a little bit more time here than we have, and see
Yeah.
if we can get kind of an inventory of what we've got going on here.
Okay, I think that's a good step forward, so. Okay, anybody from the public? Oh, you're back. Hi, please.
I was just going to say, if you guys have any public offices where you'd like to display brochures about this information, we can also provide educational brochures for public use as well.
I think it's a good idea, and I think that'll probably come out of that discussion. So, Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski?
Is this something we should put on our website? I know we'll probably it'll get in the newsletter, but I'm just wondering if like just an information, just kind of FYI, public FYI, go here for more information, how to do your part kind of a thing.
Yeah, we can probably do that. Let me get with them and see where we are, and then we'll take appropriate steps.
Okay, good idea. Okay, now, anybody from the public, any questions? We'll see none. Excellent. Well, thank you for being here. Thanks for all the information, and keep us posted, right? Let us know how the fight's going and if we can help. So thank you
Well,
very much.
Thank you for your attention.
I believe you. I assume they're not edible. No. That's too bad. That's too bad. Okay, excellent. We're picking up consent agenda item C, water service agreement for 49893 Highway 6 and 24. And I think Matt's gonna tell us all about it.
Good evening, council. Give me 1 sec.
Okay.
This is what happens when you run off to a basketball game and then come back. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Happens when you're the coach. Pop-up, can you promote me?
Yeah. Hey, Matt, before you jump into this, I'm just curious. Is this a city application or is this, who is bringing this forward?
So that's an interesting question. I'm just curious, just curious. We'll try to answer that here in 1 sec.
Okay, excellent.
Matt, you are promoted.
Thank you. Why does everything have to be difficult? Okay, good evening, council. Probably about 2 years ago, we started discussions with Mark Gould pertaining to water supply to his property over on US 6 and 24. You all know it's a large flat piece of dirt currently. He's going to put mini storage out there. What Mark is requesting is a line extension agreement, a water agreement, so that he can extend the city's water line from approximately Center Drive all the way over to his property, which is about 4,500 linear feet. The first 1,250 linear feet of that, the city would actually be helping contribute to. That is a beneficial portion of water line for us that would help us get closer to a loop up Mitchell Creek. We have come to an agreement on that price for that, and it does fit within the budget. We'll bring a supplemental to you, but it does fit within the budget. Multiple reasons for that water line extension for us. It is on our 5-year plan that was put back together in 2021. We'll be redoing in 26. This line extension not only brings water to Mark and his property, but it also provides fire hydrants along a section of US 6 and 24. There are no fire hydrants. Mark did go in front of the county commissioners and did get his portion of the project approved, which is in the county. And I'll let him talk a little bit about that process. We have been approached by the neighboring property for potential for housing developments adjacent. So it's basically West Glenwood, Mitchell Creek, Amy's Acres is looking at potentially redeveloping, and then there's Mark's property, which is a mini storage. Mark's request is a small one. It's 3 EQR of water supply to that facility. The biggest benefit to him is he does not have to build on-site water storage for fire suppression out there, which would limit him to basically the tank size. If anything needed to be above and beyond that, they would still have to haul it in. Water line extension, basically an unlimited amount from the tank, and we resupply those tanks with the water plant as needed kind of thing. So the city, it's an interesting question about application process. The city is asking for, Mark is asking for the council to agree for the mayor to sign that agreement and move it forward. And you have authority to do that. And I'm probably just fumbling along at this point, Carl.
Yeah, so
Read my seven.
when we have a number of areas outside of the city limits that we supply water. This particular area is part of the old Glenwood Water, what was the name of
That's why I have this. It's West Glenwood Water District.
West Glenwood Water District. That when we took that over, we agreed to supply water inside of that district. A number of those properties obviously lie outside the city limits. So this really is just kind of formalizing that with Mr. Gould and his property, establishing cost share on the pipeline. He has requested for a period of time some cost recovery. That's not unusual when we do a service extension or any line like this. If somebody else comes on, that they would potentially share in the cost of that another entity had put it in. So that's really all this is. It's really more about making sure we understand who's paying for what, where it's going to go, and how many EQRs and what the use is of those. One of the things that we talked about in the work session today is the need to move water through that line. Mr. Gould has agreed to do that because, as you know, if you leave water too long in a pipe, it gets stagnant, loses chlorination. We have issues with CDPHE as far as maintaining health standards, and he'll be paying for that water moving through that line. So that's really what this is. Pretty uneventful from my standpoint. I guess we have a number of agreements of various types. Like I said, this is a service area that we agreed to when we took in that old water district to provide service. So this is really more about who's paying for the line extension.
Well, the first map I had up, I apologize. There is a significant amount of West Glenwood that is outside of the city boundary. This map, we showed it earlier today, the black line is the city boundary. The blue line that's kind of dashed on the outside is actually the boundary of the water district. And if you see that, you notice that that boundary is adjacent to the parcel of Amy Acres, which is adjacent to the parcel of Gould. So if Amy's Acres does come in and we have water and it's possible to get it there, if we've done this extension, they'd be within about 400 feet. So CDPHE would ask us, and we would probably have to provide water over there. And we'd prefer that, and so would CDPHE. They don't like mini districts that are supplying significant amounts of water to residential units. So it makes sense.
It does make sense. So, well, Mr. Gould, anything to add?
Mark Gould, 200 Oak Lane.
Thank you.
And I'm here for questions, not any answers. I mean, I'll give you some answers if you want them, but I'm here
That's
to answer your question. That's what happens when you let me go have a glass of
Right.
wine.
So you're gonna answer some questions
Yes,
that are posed correctly?
exactly.
Yeah, got it.
If
All right,
anybody has
cool.
any.
Thanks for being here. Any questions to either Matt or Mr. Gould? We'll start with Sumner, Commissioner, Counselor Schachter.
Something will do.
No.
Matt, just a refreshment. I know we've changed our water rate structure. Do we provide water at the same rate for out-of-town users as we do for in-town users?
Yes, and we always have. It was the sewer that was doubled, not the water. Sorry, it's 1.5. It's not double. But yes, it's the same rate
It's
in and
the
out.
As a user. Thank you.
Bless you. Any other questions? Counselor, oops, there you go. Schmal, please.
This one, I guess, is for Carl. It was my understanding that the water service agreement that was acquired when West Glenwood was annexed was only to continue supplying water to the areas that district supplied.
Yeah, I think that this is within or adjacent to that old district, which is why I said kind of from our standpoint, we have always supplied out in West Glenwood, in or out of the city.
But not this far out of the city.
No, I mean, what I would say is that from our standpoint, and CDPHE's, we would prefer it to be centralized treated water as opposed to individualized tanks and wells. I mean, certainly council could make the decision that they don't want to do that and that they would prefer to have those services fractured in that manner, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the use won't occur.
Thank you. And this question is for Ryan. I don't know if he can actually testify, but Ryan, what is the criteria for amounts of work that the city can award without going to bid?
24,499 for non-professional service jobs.
Thank you. And since this area is in the city's considered urban growth boundary, does it not make more sense for this property to be annexed and dealt with within the city processes at the risk of sounding pedantic?
I don't know that we have contiguity. I can't remember. But as you know, the annexation process is a little more complicated in the city these days than it used to be. In that every annexation, no matter how large or small, has to go to an election. There again, I think from our standpoint, or at least my standpoint, thinking about this, it's more about consolidation of services is how kind of we approach the agreement, as opposed to having wells and tanks, like I said. So I think that, you know, annexation would be interesting, but I don't know if that's always a property owner decision that we can't force. And like I said, it's a little more complicated now, is that not only is it the property owner has to want to annex, but then they also will need to pay for an annexation election to do that. So there again, council doesn't want to extend this water line. There's no requirement that you do. It's your call.
I recognize that. I recognize the expediency and the logic behind all of this. I worry about the down the road consequences, unintended or unconsidered consequences of getting ahead of ourselves.
Thank you. Counselor Smith, questions?
I need a bit of an engineering tutorial again. More water would flow through this new loop than would be demanded by the applicant's project in order to keep the water fresh and moving. Does that mean there's an increment of water that's just going through and back to the sewer plant?
Yes, basically.
And is that increment a significant loss in our capacity or?
No, we're asking to flow 750 gallons per day.
Okay.
That's it. So the section of line that it will flush that section of line within the time frame that we are required to through CDPHE requirements for age of chlorine, basically within the system.
Okay, thank you. My other last question is kind of some musing that's occurred in the last couple hours since we talked about this. This proposal is to build a line to serve the applicant's mini storage, a particular
Yes, sir.
set of structures. But there's been talk already that the neighbors might be interested too, at some point. But that talk this afternoon was in the context of Amy's Acres redeveloping into something. Is there opportunity to provide Amy's Acres piped water, even in its current configuration, and thus make more of that flushing water used by somebody?
So let me see if I get the question correct. So
Can we get Amy's Acres on this pipe instead of, get them off their wells?
correct. That would be the intent. Amy's Acres is looking for fire flow also. They would have to build the same tank, pump, piping system, hydrants all over as the Gould property would have to if they did not have this. So they would have to build the same things. They do have the capabilities of doing that. They could put their storage systems up there, put large tanks on the side of the hill, I'm sure, and be able to flow water down to fire hydrants. That's the main source of water they're going to have to store for fire suppression. The domestic water will just keep kind of recirculating and refilling from the well. So yes, we would love to get them on this line so that that 750 gallon per day use that Mr. Gould will be using at the end of the line can be cut back significantly, because Amy's Acres would be residential properties, thus using water, thus flushing the line quicker.
It's a helpful review, and that is even more clear than it was clear this afternoon. But my question is kind of an imagined variation of that. What about getting Amy's Acres on now and serve the trailers with this water line instead of waiting for them to someday redevelop?
That's an interesting question. I don't think they have the piping system associated with that. They're not running water to each one of those trailers.
Yeah,
I think that would have to be something that
Yeah.
would be explored, and certainly there's nothing that would prohibit that other than the physical realities of the layout, probably.
Thank you. The reason I'm musing about it is just using this new capacity as soon as we can and looking for shoppers. But the other is a question that's going to come up later perhaps, but anticipating the question of, if Amy's Acres wants to redevelop, are we going to resist that in the name of our mobile home protection mission? That's not a question. That's not a question.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's for you guys.
Yeah, all right, let's stick to questions here.
It's not a question for Public Works, but it's a question because we have brought in a conversation from community development about future use of property along this line.
Sure.
So I guess I'll just plant it as something to be considered as we go along, whether we want Amy's Acres to redevelop, and if there's a chance, we might not, might we get them on the service line anyway?
Well, I think there's a possibility that Amy's Acres redevelops no matter what we do. It's in the county. They have water, they have sewer, they have power. They can do whatever they want to at this moment. Moving them over to water right now, I think Trent is right. There's no financial reason for them to do that. They function just fine as they are. But if they expand into the smaller tiny homes or whatever they're going to do out there, they will probably want more water, more infrastructure, and fire suppression. Thus, there's a financial reason for them to build it and to go in on a partnership with Mark to pay for that other 2/3 of the line, basically.
Thank you. You good, Steve? Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
So purely looking at our budget, you said this was already like something like that you wanted to do and it was in the budget. Would you do this any way differently if Mr. Gould's project wasn't online? Would you build this portion of pipe differently, or would you be doing it exactly the same, only now you have a partner?
You know, we would have to go through the same process they are because it's state highway. It's been designed a couple times and it went recently to CDOT and they're like, no, put it up here. They would make us do the exact same thing. See exact same hookups, you see exact same hydrant. We might combine it with another portion of the project and go up Mitchell Creek. Well, we might not be able to afford that either. And the county just paved it a few years ago. So it would give it a little while to settle in before we would cut it back open again.
Right.
So would we design it differently? No.
So would we say, is it safe to say that this is actually to the city's benefit to do this project at this time now?
Well, at this cost that we talked about earlier, it is an exact line with all of the low bids that we've been getting for other projects. So I understand Councilor Schmall's question for sure, but it's in line with all the other pricing we've been getting per linear foot for 8-inch pipe. It's actually slightly low.
Councilor Sharp.
Couple questions. One, kind of piggybacking off Ray's question, maybe you can help us. Annexation, one would be a question more for Carl and Steve. Under what two questions. One, generally my understanding, and I'd like you to confirm or deny if you would, annexation of residential property is generally a net cost to the city in the short and long run. Yes or no? And secondly, under what circumstances can a city annex without property owner's consent?
Yes, and only if it is an enclave.
Only what?
If it's an enclave, which means it's surrounded on effectively more than, at least 3 sides are completely surrounded by city property. You can force the issue of annexation. Gets a little more complicated with our charter change. I'd have to take a look at whether we feel like that would, even if that would require the city to go to an election to get the authority to do the involuntary annexation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Townsley.
Carl, I think this is a question for you. Is there any worry as far as precedent? And this may be totally different, but there's a dollar figure in here. It says have agreed to a fixed price of. Should we be looking at all? Is this a no bid contract?
No, I mean, I view this
for some
as,
reason?
this is kind of different. This is more of a cost share agreement as to what we're going to pay for that portion of the line that somebody else is bidding and constructing. And honestly, we do that in various ways.
Yeah, we've done this before
For various types of projects, right? Everything, from paving projects where developers doing part of it and we're paying for some, they're doing some, say, extra sidewalk and gutter or infrastructure, whatever, as part of their project that is for the benefit of the city, or upsizing of lines, paying a portion of the upsize because it's to the benefit of the city. So it just kind of falls into a little bit different category than a city specific project that we're doing.
And your numbers all sounded good this afternoon when you talked about that. I just wondered, does somebody come back and say, wait a minute, I would have done that for less, or?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, somebody can, undoubtedly somebody could say that, but from the standpoint of, it's not a project we're not the ones that are on the hook for that contract. We're just, doing a cost share on this portion. So like I said, I don't view it as a city project that is being bid out, because it's not a city project.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? No, I see none. Anybody from the public like to comment on this item? We'll see none. We'll bring it back to council, entertaining a motion, and I guess we'll keep calling it item C. Water service agreement for 49893 Highway 6 and 24. And Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
I move to approve the water service agreement for 49,893, Highway 6 and 24.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve. Counselor Schachter,
I would second the motion.
and a second. Any discussion? We'll see none. I'll call for the question. Oh, I thought that was still, okay, please discuss.
Briefly, a comment, more comments. I came into the evening very skeptical for a variety of reasons. Between the workshop and now, if I heard correctly, my concerns have been alleviated on several points. One, there seems to be a net benefit to the city and its residents by getting a planned portion of the road done in an efficient manner and a timely manner. There are no infrastructure projects on our list that have been preempted by this. We're budgeted okay for it. Ultimately, we will have more local control of development there if we have a city water line in that proximity, is what I've been led to understand. And lastly, overall, we have better fire protection in the area due to this project. Those were things that I heard this evening and today that have helped me move to support the motion. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Any more discussion? See none. I'll call for the question. The motion is to approve.
Yes, Counselor Townsley. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski. Yes, Mayor Dame. No, Counselor Schmal. Yes, Counselor Smith. Yes, Counselor Schachter. It passes 5-1.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Mark, for being here. Good luck with everything. Let's see, that was the last on this side. We'll go to item 9. Award request for qualifications 2025 38Q Southbridge Construction Management and Inspection Services. Ryan Gordon.
Good evening, Council. Ryan Gordon, the city engineer. Yeah, so in front of you to start with is the award of the Southbridge Construction Management and Inspection Services. I think the staff report kind of talked about it pretty succinctly here. What this is to bring on a qualified construction management team to help us out with not only the management of the Southbridge project, as you know, has a large federal component, which requires an extensive amount of reporting, something that our current staff at the city are not that familiar with, and then plus that would just simply overwhelm us. We're looking for some outside help. We got bids from 2 very good teams. The one that we have evaluated and analyzed that we're recommending in here is the team of Roxol and SGM, a great mixture of both state and national expertise, and then a local expertise with SGM. Leave it up to you guys. There's not too much else to say. I guess one thing to point out here is that it's an RFQ, request for qualifications, and not a proposal. So there are no fees associated with this. What our plan is to negotiate specific tasks with the awarded contractor and consultant on various tasks. So obviously in the construction, there will be day-to-day services to inspect the construction and prepare all the documents. But then we have a series of pre-construction activities that we're going to work with them to kind of help us up and get ready for the bid when it comes later this summer. So I'll kind of leave it there and leave it open for questions and comments.
Thank you, Ryan. We'll start with Councilor Schmal.
Ryan, I guess I'm a bit confused, or I've forgotten what you told me before, but I thought you had said that the design was 100% complete.
That is correct.
When I hear the design is 100% complete, I think that's the contract documents, specifications, plans to go to bid with. Is my understanding wrong there?
So you're not wrong. So this is not for the construction of Southbridge. This is for the construction management, to bring on a team to help with the management of the project.
And my understanding was that administration and typical construction management documentation things were going to be CDOT's contribution to the project.
So what CDOT's doing for the project is they're managing the grant, not necessarily the reporting of the project. So what they're doing is they are the liaison between the city and the federal government and how the money is reported back and forth. So the actual management of the project is done on a local basis.
Then I misunderstood at one of our updates then, because I had it in my mind clearly that CDOT was doing the administration of the construction.
No, I apologize if that wasn't made clear. Now, what CDOT is doing is basically taking our financial reporting.
I understand that part of it.
Understood.
So the RFQ, I appreciate that this is a qualified respondent. But it appears that what they're responding to is specification, the things that they highlighted in their RFQ proposal: specification development, environmental services, construction phasing. Is that they just didn't, is that what they're responding to, or is they just didn't change their proposal, or what?
Well, they were responding to the RFQs that we received from them. We provided some level of detail to the consultants to review. Again, the services that we're looking at is sort of broad-based, right? We're looking for professional advice on the front end, which does include construction phasing. So the design does include a level of phasing. However, in my opinion, those were done sort of high level to get the point across to CDOT and the other reviewers of the drawings that some amount of thought has been put into it. We're looking from the consultant really to help us out and fine tune that and really work with us to make sure the project is executed correctly. So there's a bunch of different things. We're also looking, pre-construction activities will help us to, identify whether there are shortcomings in the drawings or additional value engineering ideas. And then just simply to help control and shepherd the project through the bidding phase and then ultimately through the construction. And so again, they're not specifically bidding on or developing drawing specifications or whatnot, right? They are going to help us with the execution of the project.
That we're really not certain is ever going to happen.
That is a risk. Yeah, right. The project is not 100% certain that is going to go forward. And we understand at the city level, right, that there's a amount of risk that we're taking on by hiring the consultant right now. But again, without having them, we felt not having them on board at this point before the bid goes out, that we would kind of be playing catch up and may miss some things between when we brought on the CM, if it happened exactly when the bids go out, to when the contractor is ultimately selected.
I think that gets to the essence of my questions to begin with. I think I'm not comfortable approving this general consulting contract. I am comfortable a limited scope up to knowing that the project is going to go with the help that you need. But there are plenty of things in here that are, I would hate to have someone coming back to us saying, well, we anticipated doing this much work, so we hired all of these people, or we relocated these people, or whatever expenses they incurred in anticipation of a $4 million contract that only turns out to be a $150,000 contract.
Yeah, and I would say, I think that's fair, right? We have not identified specific scope items, and prior to us letting the selected consultant loose on any of these, we're going to sit down and discuss with them, pencil out what our expectations are within a limited scope and budget. I will say that during the bidding process for this RFQ, this consultation with all the folks interested, it was made abundantly clear that this project is not 100% a go, and that the $4 million, whatever the big construction management effort during construction, right, was acknowledged by everybody that, hey, look, we may not be doing all of that if this project doesn't happen. So there is a understanding between everybody that there is somewhat of an unknown on the overall project. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilor Townsley, please.
Maybe, just listening to the go back and forth here raises a question in my mind, and maybe just make it simpler. By voting for this and approving this, what is our financial risk, or what's our financial obligation?
So
None?
as of right now, none.
No.
Until we start to establish and develop some specific tasks. For example, one of the tasks that will be first and foremost is to provide some insight over how the project is going to be executed. We're trying to understand a little bit more detail of, from a construction management perspective, or from the professionals who've managed large projects like this, to better inform the city staff, and then ultimately, let's say permitting, which way we kind of go on certain aspects of the project. Namely, constructing the bridge, we'd like to have some technical expertise so we can understand better as we're moving forward with developing those phasing plans, for example. Again, we will be developing specific scope items prior to the execution of the bids. So again, a vote now is not a vote for any dollar amounts. We are looking to negotiate those kind of an as needed basis.
Are you looking at having an as needed basis to spend that money before we have a bid on the bridge and know that we're going to go forward with it?
So
if so, like by how much?
Yeah, we don't have a dollar amount, right? I mean, we are very cognizant at the staff level that we don't have an open checkbook, and that we're looking to be really, really efficient. I don't have a specific answer for you because we haven't developed that list. One of the things we want to do with a selected consultant is kind of sit down and iron out what these things are. But our anticipation is this is, let's say, throw out something less than, say, $50,000 to $100,000 type thing. And again, I don't think it's going to get to that much because, again, we're going to be really fact finding. There's not a whole lot of effort until we actually hit the send button for the bids.
And if we were to say, no, we don't want to go forward with this based on hating to, give somebody an open checkbook on something that we don't know is going to go forward, what's the negative effect on you and your process and timing?
If ultimately we do not approve this, then we will kind of go back to the drawing board, and then I don't have a good answer for you, other than we would probably wait until a future time frame when the bids go out, probably go concurrently with the bids. I think there's some, in our opinion, some risk of not understanding some of the nuances of the project that the experts would help us out with.
And last question, and I don't know if you can answer this or not, when are we likely to, besides this summer sometime, when are we likely to start seeing a number come back on, if we've got 100% plans, we put that out there to bid, when are we looking at finding out how much it's going to cost?
Well, ultimately, we won't know until those bids go out. But again, we have a construction cost estimate that's been developed by our consultant engineers who did the design. So we definitely know a number out there. And we've been constantly looking at those numbers, those unit costs, right, versus what we have internally. We know a lot of what the unit costs will be, say, for pipeline installation or moving dirt around, right? I mean, some of the things that we don't really know very well is what's the cost of 200-foot long by 8-foot deep steel girders, right? Some of the things that we're, relying upon our consultants to provide that information. But again, we won't know specific details on what those costs are until later. Again, we are looking at what we've received in the past and kind of truthing those out and seeing where that cost estimate lands.
I guess still just trying to get back to a simple, we're hoping to have this back by June, by July.
Yeah. So overall, the project schedule for bid is, we have a few other milestones to hit. We're wrapping up the environmental documents as we speak. The right of way is lagging a little bit, but once we have those clearances, we can go out to bid. So our goal is to be bidding this out May, June, July is kind of the target right now. It's a little bit of a moving target, but that's certainly our goal.
And am I missing something that you're still hoping to break ground in September?
Yeah. So the idea was, if we go out to bid, let's say pick a month in June, that we'd have somewhere between a 4 and 6 week bidding process. And then we'd, you kind of do the timeline. Once you get them signed up and kind of negotiate some of the things that we would think that we could start construction, sometime September or early fall.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
So just for clarification, it's already been asked, you've already established that this is a little bit of a shared risk you know, everybody aware that there's a chance. There's no financial obligation. So what is the risk if we say yes tonight and then the project doesn't go forward? Like, what is the city on the hook for?
So I don't have a specific, dollar amount, right?
Right.
But it'd be efforts between now and if the project is ultimately canceled, risk that we'd entail.
So it's a little bit of money spent, kind of like what we've already spent on design and things like that. Like, this is just part of that process.
Yeah, and maybe I can help. Your risk tonight is zero because we haven't entered into an agreement that has, you guys are approving the consultant, not the specific task orders.
Right.
Right. That initial task order between now and bidding is going to be a negotiated amount that hopefully, I think what you're hearing Ryan say is his gut on that is probably the $50,000 to $100,000 range max. That's really what is at risk. And the way we typically, there are milestones, you structure these so that, they're really task order driven, or whatever you want to call the document, but that's how I think about it, as a task order driven between now and then there's going to be a substantial one that relates from, bidding to signing up, probably a contractor, and then from start of construction to end of construction.
I guess what I'm really asking, since I've never built a bridge before, is like, this is just part of that natural order of procedure towards building a bridge.
It is, yeah, and I think you put it a good way, Councilor Zelensky, about the design, right? This is sort of the next phase, right? This is sort of breaking out from the consultant, the design consultant who's designed the bridge, Jacobs Engineering, who, fair and unfair, maybe have some tunnel vision, right? They're into the design, right? We want to break out of that, bring in a third party, people who haven't seen the design, that can kind of look at that and say, you know what, this doesn't make sense for where we are. Right, Jacobs is in Denver and outside of Colorado. We're bringing in the local experts who are like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. Let's tweak this. So again, it's an extension of that design, but breaking out of the mold of who we have to provide that local expertise and knowledge.
Right. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Councilor Smith.
Thank you. A handful of questions from what was a longer list of questions, because other members have asked them and got some helpful responses from you. One of my questions is just a silly semantics one, I think. In the staff memo, the requested action is to consider approving a request for qualifications. We're really approving a contract recognizing qualifications, right?
I think really what you're doing is you're approving this, this contractor for this purpose. So you're right, the semantics are probably a little awkward, but the reality is that's what you're doing. You're saying, yeah, we agree, this is who you guys are going to use. Then we're going to work out the task orders that are associated with the costs.
Having received their qualifications from the request, therefore, that was sent out. I share the cart horse dilemma that other council members have highlighted. Are we ready to start doing this work when we don't know how much it's going to cost, let alone whether we have the full package of money to build the actual project? That's still, in spite of the thoughtful and professional answers you gave to my colleagues, I remain nervous about that. A variation of asking the same question is, you said that the contractor understands that possibility, that they could start doing some work for you from the shopping list in the ballpark of $50,000 to $100,000, and they know maybe that's all they're going to get out of this deal. At least there's a possibility of that. Does that need to be quantified, documented in the contract to be sure that that understanding is clear?
Yeah. I think that on a kind of on demand, particularly the front end of this, the way this is, that's how we would document it, is that work is only performed as authorized and up to a certain amount for that particular phase or task or however you want to frame it. That's absolutely how we would approach it. We don't want any misunderstandings around, there's no award of $4 million to this contractor that's being asked for here, right? And so I'm comfortable that we can frame it, and I've done a similar, like working with an airport or something like that, where you have pre-construction moving into construction on management. It's a similar kind of process, right? So I'm comfortable that there's nothing that you're doing tonight that is obligating the city to actually any amount of money this evening, other than selecting this contractor. And then we're going to be looking at specific things that we're going to have them do rolling up to that initial bid.
And
I would
you
add,
don't
this
need-
is,
You don't need from city council to put a lid on, an interim lid on that amount.
I think right now it's possible that we're going to come back with an interim lid for approval from you guys. But if we don't know that we can negotiate with this contractor, then we can never get to that number. You guys, they're using the cart and the horse a lot tonight, but at this point they're like chasing each other, right? Because if I don't know that we can negotiate an agreement, I can't get to the number that everybody wants to see before we approve a contract.
Great.
and I would just add that, in my opinion, doing what we're doing now is not breaking new ground, right? This is something that is relatively straightforward and happens in the construction industry, of where you engage someone, obviously with the known risk that a project may or may not go forward, whether it's our situation with Southbridge with funding, or if it's with any project that we have going on that we may or may not have enough money to execute, right? So there is amount of risk that's understood with managing projects.
Thank you. The $50,000 to $100,000 current initial estimate, maybe more as phases of preparation proceed, comes from which pot of money?
So that would probably come from A&I, I'm assuming. Yes, Steve's nodding his head. Yeah. And again, I wouldn't put a whole lot of stock at $50,000 to $100,000 on kind of a guess. We're going to develop a list of tasks, right? That we think are really important to have prior to bidding the project. Certainly, as we bring them along and as we bid this project, we want them to, again, have enough familiarity with the project. Then when we're talking to the contractor and they ask questions, that they're helpful and able to facilitate answers.
Thank you. One of the qualitative or subjective statements in this Roxall's proposal package was, "We have strong ties to Glenwood Springs community." I see separately that they had an inspection contract on the Grand Avenue Bridge and that they did some utility work on South Midland. Is that what they mean by strong ties? Is there something more to it than that?
I think it's a broad-based thing. So obviously the team involved, Roxall and then locally SGM, have local knowledge of local projects, right? Obviously, SGM has been all over the valley for many, many years. Roxall has done a ton of work for CDOT, including up on Vale Pass, and a lot of the CDOT projects on the Front Range. A lot of the staff that are in the project team are either local or recently local, right? So they have ties to Glenwood, know the local environment.
Not necessarily doing all the work from Oklahoma.
Say it again, I'm
Not
sorry.
necessarily doing all their work from Oklahoma. They're going to actually be here working with you.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%, right? We anticipate everybody who's going to be involved will be here. And certainly when the construction starts, there will be a need for boots on the ground. So they will physically be in Glenwood. And again, a lot of the folks that we're talking to are already located on the western slope. So they are close and will be here working with us hand in hand. Again, a phone call away is really what we're looking for.
Thank you. Back to the substantive portion. When you have updated the city council on the 90 to 100 and the spans in between percentage drawings, at each of those phases, I believe you were saying there are yet some more changes to come, or that they're not finally resolved. One example that you've offered is the contemplated noise walls along the edge of Cardiff Glen neighborhood that are, as I understand, still are in the drawings, but may or may not actually end up being built. I think another was the configuration of a combination of drainage, storm drainage and curbs and gutters that are drawn a certain way in these 100% plans, but still might change. Do I remember that right? And if so, is this contract the opportunity to get those finalized?
So the items within the design drawings will be fixed and remedied if they need to be by our current consultant. So it's not the consultant that you're voting on tonight. For example, we are probably at the 99% level. We have some very, very minor comments maybe left to kind of incorporate based on some comments both from the county, Garfield County, and minor comments from Ciudad. These are non-substantive. They're very minor. What I'm looking for the consultant here that you're looking at on voting is, again, any other additional value engineering items, things to tweak, things to change. And that won't be part of any of the design changes. These things will be kind of an output or a result of working with them and then also with the contractor to optimize the project.
Okay, so same things like noise wall, curb and gutters, storm drainage, the final configuration of pedestrian access along the Park West connection. Those are still need to be dealt with, but it'll be by somebody else.
Well, I would say the only thing that's left to resolve is the sound wall, and we've just concluded that effort. I think I'm probably okay by saying, well, we've communicated. So we've communicated to the state and the Fed. So the result of the sound wall was that the impacted residents, are called the benefited receptors, have voted against the sound wall. And now, Councilor Smith, the sound wall was not in the 100% drawings. They were in the 50% drawings, and it's really kind of a timing wise is kind of how the sound wall was either not in or in. If you recall, when we had the toll, there was no sound wall, and that's when we completed the 100% drawings before the rug was kind of pulled out of us. So that is the last piece to resolve on any major changes. So the drainage issues are corrected in our what's in the final documents. Again, I can definitely foresee as we move forward having some modifications to those. But again, we're not talking major modifications. These will be small tweaks to optimize the project.
Thank you for your patience. Those are nitpicky questions, but they help me a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Smith. I think Steve Boyd wants to chime in quick.
Yeah, just in terms of awarding this RFQ, keep in mind that when we submitted this budget in October, we didn't have an appropriation in for Southbridge at all. I mean, we don't know what we're going to spend. So technically, we can award this, and that's fine, but we can't spend any money at all under it until you guys approve an appropriation.
And beyond that, we're like, when I was talking about, I probably wasn't as clear as I could have been with the cart and the horse and the cart and the horse. If I don't know who I can craft a contract with to come back to you guys with like, here's the task list and how much it costs to go along with the appropriation, then we're just going to be stuck here. So really it is, are you at least willing to let us negotiate with these folks and bring back a final form of contract and a task list, at least up to the award phase of the bid, right?
Well, and I was gonna, I mean, you know, like you said, we've never built a bridge before. We've never had a project that size, but I assume, and we shouldn't, but I assume anyway, that a project of that size and nature, this is common practice. This is what you do to move forward, right? So what you guys bring forward to us, I can believe you.
Yeah,
and we
by
move
way of
on.
example, we did a very similar contract, approved on an RFQ for the construction, remodeling and expansion of the rec center in Silverthorne. We brought on a construction management team ahead of bid, underneath similar circumstances. Like, I'm not going to do this without a contract. And they came in with estimates on what that pre-construction cost was going to look like. Or ultimately, you guys are going to have to approve both the appropriation and you know, if that amount is, is not budgeted for, it has to come back for you for
Right.
final approval on the number because it's not budgeted for.
Right, and there's always another step. There's always a next step, but there's always a fail safe, it seems. So
Right, and one of the, I think Matt wants to chime in here, but one other thing here first is this process going with RFQ is the process that CDOT said, this is how you do it, right? So this is how they do it on big projects like ours that had federal funding, is to get an RFQ and then to move to the next step.
So it's prescribed.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Matt,
It's funny that you say that. We have built a bridge before. We did this exact same process with 27th Street Bridge.
Oh.
And we did CM work in advance with an RFQ. We hired HDR. They did a little upfront work. They got used to what the plan said, all the specifications, because there's thousands of pages of everything. They got to be ready to understand as the bid goes out, because they'll help us answer questions too. And then if the project comes back and the bid is $200 million to build a bridge, that's what they get paid, and we'll all move on in life, kind of thing. But we have done this before. It's the exact same process, but we did this for 27.
to clarify, I didn't mean you, I meant me and her.
I'm just letting you know.
Us-ish here,
We
you know.
have built a bridge before. This
Other
is-
than Ray. Ray, of course, has, yeah.
That's what in my car. We had built a bridge.
Yeah, I was the one that said we hadn't built it.
Councilor Schmal.
I apologize for my confusion. Most of my disappointment was my understanding that CDOT was doing all of the administration, and the cost of that administration was their contribution to the project. I'm sorry I misunderstood that, but that's a big misunderstanding to me. In terms of this RFQ, as long as it's clear that we have staged pre-bid services and post-bid services, with that it's clear that we may not go forward with this project after bids are received, or even if we receive bids, then what we are approving are the hourly rates that were included in the RFQ to pay the consultant to come up to speed with the understanding of the project, to be able to provide the assistance that Matt and Ryan need. Okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion, or actually questions, I should say? No, is there anybody from the public here that'd like to comment? I'll see none. Bring it back to council, entertaining a motion in item 9, award request for qualifications 2025-38Q. Councilor Schacht.
Mr. Mayor, in regard to item 9, I move that we award the request for qualifications 2025-38Q, the Southbridge Construction Management and Inspection Services.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve.
I say.
And Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski, we have a second to approve. Enthusiastic second, I have to say. Any more discussion? We'll see none. I'll call for the question.
Yes, Counselor Townsley. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski. Yes, Mayor Dame. Yes, Counselor Schmal. No, Counselor Smith. Yes, Counselor Schachter. It passes 5-1.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Thanks for being here. You're not done there. Oh, Coach Miller Drive is also you, isn't it?
I'm not
Okay,
leaving.
item 10.
I am not leaving.
Award request for proposal 2025-39P, Coach Miller Drive and 14th Street construction. Ryan, please.
So this is a P and not a Q, so there are dollars associated with this project. I went over this, my preview to projects coming up, so I won't go into the detail of what it is. Certainly listed here in the staff report. Happy to go into the detail. This project, we received 4 bids from contractors, all within our budget. In fact, the low bid was under our budget. The low bid was from a company called Timberwolf Excavating, which is has a local branch out of Brighton, Colorado. We did our due diligence. We called their references, checked in on the references. We interviewed them prior to us making this recommendation. In fact, these folks are out at the Home 2 Suites, which is the newest hotel going up in the Meadows, just to get a feel for who they were, can they do this, right? And again, the critical part of this project is the time frame. They only have a short couple months to do this work. And so we really grilled them to make sure they had the capability to do this. And we felt very confident after talking to them that they in fact did. Couple things to note here before we move on. One is that the cost that's in here, in their bid, they had a mathematical error that we caught when we did our due diligence. Now, it didn't change the bottom line. But I wanted to make you aware that there was a minor cost error. And I think I said this, I can tell you what that is specifically. And the other thing to be aware of is that we are going after a DOLA grant, a tier 1 DOLA grant, which is for $200,000. So this, if you approve this project, we are not going to sign the contractor up until after we know if we get that grant. That's just the way it works. But we wanted to get this in front of you and out of the way. So again, this is for award to TWX for, find where the total cost is. $2,119,025 in a few cents. Kick it back to you guys for any questions or concerns with regards to this project.
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks for the info. Back to council for question. We'll start with Councilor Schmal.
Ryan, the contract amount includes the corrected mathematical error, correct?
No, it does not. The recommendation was to proceed with the cost without the mathematical error, and then we will adjust that with the change order as we move forward.
You know what the mathematical error is?
We do.
Why would you not just correct it in the contract?
Well, the advice we got, Mr. Muse may opine about that as our city clerk.
We don't change bids before we award them.
Procedural thing.
Yes, we don't change actual bids before we award them. We award what bids we were received. So we were given the bid of $2,119,000. So we don't change the bid that we were given. So we award the bid that we were given, and then we can change the amount with a change order. We know the amount is more, but we know the amount is still under and still our preferred bid of the other proposals.
It's probably immaterial at this point, but the normal process from a state perspective would be to correct the mathematical error, and the contractor has a choice of accepting the correction or not accepting the correction. And then the bids are evaluated based on those numbers. So you can't take a legitimate mistake and use it for or against either party. But the mistake should be corrected beforehand, typically. I have one other question. The project is bonded, right? The contractor will provide a performance bond and
a payment bond.
and we'll have another change order for a water tap to the dog park, which I visited today and was frankly very impressed with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Real quick, just so,
yeah,
Councilor Schmal, we did communicate with the contractor and they're aware of the error. And again, as Ryan mentioned, it had no material impact to the overall ranking of the bids.
Yeah. Will this be funded by the Streets and Infrastructure Fund? Is that part of?
Yep. So this is covered by a few different entities. So the Street and Infrastructure Fund is covering part of it. The water line that's associated with this is paid by the water fund.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Councilor Smith.
The questions, I think, focus more on the staff report than on the contractor's bidding document. The latter seeming to be pretty straightforward, because it's a pretty straightforward project. Seem like they've got the qualifications. Ryan, you said a minute ago that you want to wait before actually awarding the contract or signing the contract until you hear from DOLA. When will you hear from DOLA?
So the DOLA grant, I can't remember exactly the due date. We should hear back from DOLA sometime in mid-April. That has been our experience from past grant cycles. Again, we've made the contractor aware that this is going on, that a physical signed contract is waiting until we hear back from DOLA. I will say that if we don't get the DOLA funds, we have budgeted for this project, so the project would go, regardless of that. But again, that's the process that DOLA has, is they don't want to see signed contracts before the grant has been issued.
That was the prompting of my question, because your memo says you're going to build it with or without DOLA.
Yeah.
But in order to keep DOLA happy, meanwhile, you're going to do it in this sequence.
That is correct, yeah.
Thank you. And you said that the timing is crucial. Get it done while school's out, basically. And the contractor is real clear on that.
Crystal clear. Crystal clear. Yeah. At pre-bid, during the walkthrough, they were all made aware, and then we emphasized it in 2 separate meetings with Timberwolf, how critical it is to be done. In fact, in order to make sure the project is done on time, we have very steep liquidated damages in the amount of $10,000 per day if they don't finish the project in time.
That was my next question. Do they get incentives to finish early, or just penalties if they finish late?
No carrots, just sticks.
Love it.
One of the things you mentioned in your summary of the project in your staff report is a plan, and is in the drawings, a plan to realign the Coach Miller 14th Street, Pitkin Avenue intersection, presumably to line up the parking lot exit.
Yep.
Into the Pitkin intersection. Is that
Yep,
right?
that's the main thing for a variety of reasons. Realigning it solves a bunch of problems, right? There's pedestrian issues, right, crossing the street. Right now, it's offset by maybe 40 feet. If you have the privilege of going there, either when school is in session at the beginning of the morning or letting out, it is a cluster. And so this will help to create better flow overall.
I know my questions about this are a little late because it's designed, but I'm still curious. Why was that built that way in the first place? Was it intended to be a traffic calming measure?
That I can't answer. I was not here when that was designed. I know that we did not come up with this new realignment on our own. We sat down with the high school and had a conversation and looked to it, and they, all of the high school, whether they're staff at the high school, principals, et cetera, or the school district's maintenance staff, were very, very supportive of this. In fact, that's the only reason why we're moving forward.
And I bring it up in part because periodically you just continue to hear from neighbors about fast-moving high school cars at lunchtime or before and after school. And if this cluster did serve to calm that down, maybe it's not such a bad thing, but.
Well, and sorry to speak over you. One of the things that we don't have in the drawings that we're likely going to add at request of the high school is perhaps some speed bumps on Coach Miller Drive to mitigate some of those fast driving high school students.
And the other aspect of this realignment is that there are some nice trees in the way of that realignment. Who pays to replace those trees?
We're going to try to save those trees if we can.
Really?
I don't think that's possible, but we will see if we can work out. But if those trees go away, we don't have plans right now to replace them, but that could be something that we look to do later. The school has some other ideas of maybe some other work too, so there could be some opportunities to replace some of that vegetation.
I'm surprised and disappointed the school didn't squawk about losing trees, but they should have, and I encourage they and you to look for ways to, if you can't save the trees, to replace them with somebody's money.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I see none. Anybody from the public? Any comments? We'll see none. Close the public portion, bring it back to council for a motion and award request for proposal 2025-39P. Mayor Pro Tem Zelensky.
I would like to make a motion to approve the award request for proposal 2025-39P Coach Miller Drive and 14th Street construction.
Excellent. We have a motion to approve. Council Townsend. And a second. Any more discussion? See none, I'll call for the question.
It passes 6-0.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. Well, Ryan. Moving on, award request for proposal 40P, Highway 6 and 24 shared use path improvements.
Once again, I am up here
It's
to
Ryan.
speak with you folks. So again, went over this in fairly great detail before. I won't go into the details of the project. Again, if you want to, I'm happy to go over it. This project, we had 3 bids. The low bidder is Glenwood Construction out of Glenwood Springs. Their bid of $2.8 million and a little bit more. We just with the previous one, we've brought in Gould and asked them some questions to make sure they understand the project, that they can execute it, and we feel very comfortable that they have both the capabilities and expertise to do it. Working through some of the details on schedules, but then again, they want to get going as soon as possible. The one thing on this, so somewhat similar to Coach Miller, not quite the same apples to apples comparison. This project has funding from CDOT, some MMOF funding, $750,000. CDOT has to approve of the project prior to us signing the contract. Those approvals went into CDOT earlier this week. We're just waiting for a signature. It was approved at the local regional 3 level. We should expect that at any moment. But again, that funding is contingent upon CDOT giving their blessing. We have full confidence that it will. This is a great project. Again, we got 3 bids from 3 local contractors and feel pretty good about where we stand on this. Questions?
No, let's go straight to the motion. Entertaining a motion.
Wonderful.
Oh, God. I know, I'm just kidding. I was hoping you guys wouldn't catch it.
So,
Mayor Pro Tem Selinsky, questions? Please.
okay, quick question. I see 2 spots where it says closed trail. I don't see where the trail is open. Can you tell me, based on their timeline, when the trail will be open for people to use?
Yeah. So we're still working through the details with Gould. What their plan is to, the trail will be 100% closed during construction. There's just no getting around it. We have, the water line goes from Linden up to where the pump station is. So halfway between, there's a kind of a small trail.
I'm going to cut you off. I don't think I need to worry about that. Like, you don't have to justify that. I just know that we're going to get questions from West Glenwood residents when they can start using their trail again. And so I just was wondering if you could
Yeah.
give me
So
an
the
idea.
goal of the project is to be done before Strawberry Days. So
Perfect.
we'll see if,
Excellent.
I don't want,
See?
I'm not gonna,
That's a good question.
Excellent.
I don't, again, we're not holding, it's not the final.
Yep.
That is certainly the goal. Things come up, right? But their plan has been to be done by then. And if not, we know this is a major corridor, whether it's Strawberry Days or not, right? So if it's not done by Strawberry Days, they will be off and they will have some portions of it open, predominantly the roadway. This project will have a significant amount of traffic control. That northern edge of 6 and 24 gets a brand new curb and gutter. The plan is to have a temporary stoplight out there to regulate traffic and allow the contractor just to boogie on, right? So there will be some disruptions, but the goal again is to minimize construction overall.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Councilor Schachter.
No, I was gonna make a motion.
Oh.
I'm not ready for that yet.
Okay, any other questions?
No.
We'll see none. Public comment. Anybody here to comment? See none. Back to council. Entertaining a motion. Award request for proposal 40P. Councilor Schachter.
I move that we award the request for proposal 40P, Highway 6 and 24, shared use path improvements.
Motion to approve. Looking for a second. Councilor Smith.
Enthusiastically second
No.
and because this is a thrill. The first time city staff told me 6 and 24 path replacement will be designed this year, built next year, was 2016.
Oh, that's a good deal then.
And each year, the same intention, genuine as it was, kind of just slipped along. Year after year, the design this year, build next year, they just slipped. This is thrilling. So thank you very much, all of you, for finding the money and getting this design in such a final way, and adding all this utility and drainage improvements to boot. This is a marvelous success already. Thank you.
I'm going to support the motion.
A second.
So now we have a motion, a second, and we already had comments, so I don't know if we need to talk about it anymore. Any other comments? See none, call for the question.
It passes unanimous.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, Ryan. Have a good night. Okay, item 12, ordinance 2026-01, building permit inspection fee, second reading. Trent, please.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Trent Height with Community Development. Following up from our last meeting, you all wanted to place this on the regular agenda so that we can make some corrections to the ordinance to correct the re-inspection fee schedule. And I did just want to kind of add a little bit more color to that conversation. That was one of the main intents of our proposing this fee schedule change. And, you know, as a reminder of the approximately 1,500 inspections we did last year, we only did re-inspections for 120 of those. And we only actually applied a re-inspection fee for 33 of the approximately 120. And the changes that we are proposing are intended really to not necessarily cover the costs of inspection, but to be a penalty as to, you know, inspections being called for incomplete work or, you know, time wasted of our inspectors that takes us away from other plan reviews and other inspections being scheduled. Of those 33 approximately re-inspection fees applied, approximately half of those were for one development. Maybe you've seen it out in Glenwood Meadows area. While that project is coming closer and closer to being complete, you know, it is something that we would like to have in our back pocket for any abuses of our inspectors into the future. So happy to answer any additional questions you have. We have corrected that Exhibit A that addresses those inspection fees.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thanks for the info. Questions from council? See none. Questions from the public? Also see none. Bring it back to council for motion. Ordinance 2026-01, building permit inspection fee, second reading. Mayor Pro Tem Solinsky.
So I would like to move to approve ordinance 2026-01, building permit inspection fees.
We have a motion to approve and looking for a second. Council Schachter.
Second the motion.
Excellent. Motion is second to approve. Any more discussion? See none, call for the question.
No, Counselor Townsley. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski. Yes, Mayor Dame. Yes, Counselor Schmal. Yes, Counselor Smith. Yes, Counselor Schachter. It passes 5-1.
Thank you, Ryan. Moving on, item 13, ordinance 2026-03, sales tax language 040.020.030 cleanup.
That pretty much covers it. It's just a section of the code that, you know, when we update as a result of tax rates changing everything, some language got missed. We're cleaning it up so that we don't have to do it again just by referencing back to the main provisions. That's it. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Carl. Any questions? Councilor Smith.
This is basically the child care tax being incorporated. Is that right?
No. This is not the child care tax being incorporated. This is cleanup from, because child care tax is not ours. So it's not in, and Steve can give you the whole rundown on how that works. This is just cleaning up for the 2A and 2C.
Okay, excellent. Any other questions? See none. Anybody from the public? Also see none. Bring it back to council. Entertaining a motion, ordinance 2026-03. Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski, please.
Okay, would like to move to approve ordinance 2026-03, sales tax language cleanup at 04. Okay, sorry, let me do this again. 040.020.030.
Excellent. We have a motion to approve. I'm looking for a second. Councilor Schachter.
I'll second the motion.
Motion is second to approve. Any other discussion on council? See none, call for the question.
It's unanimous.
Thank you, Ryan. And resolution, item 14, resolution 2026-02, electric tariff sheet dates for 2026 rate adjustment. Matt Langhorst, please.
Good evening, council. I'm coming in front of you tonight to ask for a small increase in electric fees. And I'll throw up a couple exhibits here in just a moment so you can kind of see where we fall, because that's always the question. We did a rate study back in 2021, falling into 2022. Some of you probably remember that. Mean actually did that rate study for us. Andrew did a great job. This is the last year of that rate study recommendations. He had recommended a 5.2% increase basically for 3 years, I believe, in a row. It was 4. This would be the last year he was recommending 5.2% increase. And that would be an increase on the power rate, not the flat fees. So the flat fees we left the same. If you look at the tariff sheets, it's just an increase on the rate itself. Let me actually throw these up here. For some reason, that's not sharing.
There it is.
One moment. For some reason in 2024, we did not fill out the CAMU survey of all the municipalities, REAs, co-ops, everything in the state of Colorado that they represent. What I have in here is I placed us. It's a little maybe hard to see. I can send these to you. We're right here. And a lot of people like to see comparisons. So this is 2024's rates for a residential customer, standard residential customer using 700 kilowatts of power in a month. That rate, if you project out our tariffs for 2026, would be about $108.76 for their power bill. These are 2024 rates for all the other municipalities, which have gone up several percentages since then. And you can kind of see we fall right here, which is about midway in the municipalities, and it's a little bit less than midway when it comes to the co-ops. And this is investor owned over in the blue, which is Excel, which would be $121. So I'm just going to step through 3 of these things because you'll see 3 rates basically built in: residential, small commercial, and large commercial. And then I'll pop open one more thing. This is small commercial. You can see we're right here at $293.80 for 2,000 kilowatts of use. That puts us approximately in the mid-range of the municipalities. Once again, this is 2 years ago for their rates. And mid-range for co-op, a little bit higher, and still under Excel. Excel would have been $318.85. And this is just taking their service fees, any demand charges, anything they have for that bill for 2,000 kilowatts basically of usage, and applying it to a standard monthly bill. Last one would be large commercial. Once again, large commercials around $6,000 for us. That is once again coming across about mid-range on municipalities. We are higher than co-ops. Co-ops kind of promote industrial and commercial. So we're higher than they are, but we're right in line, slightly below Excel Energy. This is probably hard to see also. I apologize. And I can send this all to you. What I did in this one was just took Glenwood Springs, Aspen, Gunnison, Delta, and Montrose and just said, hey, what are your flat fees? What are your rates for each one of these things? And how does that actually compare? Because if you go in and you look at our rate, we're going to be up at 0.1344 cents per kilowatt hour for residential. And you might say that's higher than Aspen, which is 0.11, or Gunnison, which is 0.11. All of them are around 0.11, 0.10. So we're slightly higher than they are, but you go back and you look at their service fee, which is their flat fee, and they basically balance out. So if we're at $108.76 for a residential at 700 kilowatts, Aspen, who is cheaper than us in the rate, but $61 for the service fee, would have been $116. Gunnison's at 101, so they're slightly lower than us. Delta's at 97, and Montrose would have been, Montrose DMEA would have been 118. I just wanted to kind of point that out. If you go in and look at rates, there's a flat fee associated with it all the time. And then there is actually a power rate itself. Ours is a little higher, but our flat fee is a little less. We are going to be working on a rate study this year. Actually, we've already started that. And most likely that will change a little bit because they're suggesting you cover more of your O&M fees with your flat fees and bring your power rates back down a little bit. So all that said, because I know some of you hadn't been through this before, the way that we change rates is you're the electric board. You're also the city and electric board, which is the city council. We bring tariff sheets to you just like anybody else in the state of Colorado would do. Excel Energy, Holy Cross. and we make recommendations. That it's an advice letter, and then we set the rates below that. So everything within your packet is what we're recommending for rates coming into 2026. Mean doesn't change their rates until April 1st, which is kind of why we lag the first of the year. You know, these rates will go in, I think, March 1st is what I put them in. So they won't see them until I think the first weekend, the first bill in April.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
Any questions? Counselor Smith.
I indeed have not been through a rate setting, let alone an update. If I'm reading this right, it's just basically for each kilowatt hour you use, you pay a certain number of pennies. And are there any incentives or disincentives to conserve? I know in many long old days, there used to be block pricing where if you were a big shopping mall, it was to your advantage to use more and get a lower rate per kilowatt hour. We're out of those days, right?
We're out of those days. Our rates are very basic at this moment. We'll probably bring 2 or 3 different versions of rate options to you over this rate study, which would be, once again, like kind of tiered rates. So it's like water. If you use too much, we actually punish you for that. We can bring time of use rates. So if you're using power off peak, it may be 7 cents. But if you're using it on peak, it may be 21 cents. And we may be we're bringing for at least commercial demand charges. Because when a commercial turns on and they're using a massive amount of power right at peak, they're kind of part of the problem. So can they start adjusting that? And if not, then they would actually pay. It's kind of like a timer day rate, but they'll be paying demand charges, anything above what a normal demand load would be. So we'll be bringing several options to you to try to balance and discourage too much electrical use, leaving the air conditioner on all day, those kinds of fun things. But at the end of the day, people will use power as they want to.
Thank you. I think that at least mentions my other question. The city's climate action plan at task E 3.1.2 says implement demand charge into electricity fees by 2026. Is that incorporated here, or is that contemplated in this new study?
That is incorporated in the new study. So we would be, if we go with the demand charges, it would be rolled into the beginning of 2027 for those fees. We tried to do this rate study last year. Water study got in the way of it a little bit because we're doing actually a water, sewer, and electric rate study all at the same time right now. It's in its infancy. It will be brought to council as we move along and come up with some more options. Water and sewer is probably pretty easy. We made some massive changes last year. The electric will be more of an interesting conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does this, and maybe that was his question, does this reflect on this new transmission line that's going to cost an arm and a leg?
So that's why I'm saying Andrew did a really good job, because wind power and basically green power went from super subsidized to not. So it's gone up in cost. And the transmission line and the fees from the power pathway project that are being implemented across the board for everyone, yes, are already included in this 5.2%.
So no
It will be
surprises.
included in the next rate study, because unless something happens, we will continue to pay more and more. I want to say it was 15% increase this year for us on transmission, which is $150,000, actually $180,000 by itself. That's just one fee that just randomly changed.
Just to get it from A to B. Wow.
And not even, yeah.
It's not our A to B.
It's not R, A, and B. No, I get it. We're just in the middle of things. Okay, questions? Any more? We'll see none. Anybody from the public? Also see none. Bring it back to council. Entertaining a motion resolution 2026-02. Council Schachter.
Sure, regarding resolution 2026-02, electric tariff sheet updates for 2026 rate adjustment, I move we approve.
A motion to approve. Looking for a second.
I'll second.
And a second. Motions to approve. Any discussion? See none. Call for the question.
It passes unanimously.
Thank you, Ryan. This concludes our actions and presentations for tonight. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, council.
Moving on to council comments. We'll start with Councilor Townsley. Councilor Schmall. Please.
Yeah, I do, I do want to say that I was, as many things that are troubling that we do here as council, I was really uplifted today to go down to that park below Coach Miller Drive. It was clean. I picked up some trash, but it was relatively clean. People were well behaved. Looked like there was only one homeless encampment under the bridge on west side of the river. Had a nice Tarzan rope to get himself up and down the hill. But it was very nice. Congratulations to everybody that was involved in that.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski.
I have nothing.
Nothing. Counselor Smith. No, I'm coming from the outside in. That's how I like to do it. There you go. Counselor Smith.
Thank you. At the last meeting, I posed a question. Are we prepared for the possible wildfire year, considering how dry it's been all summer and all fall and all winter? We didn't know for sure. I did have a conversation with Chief Gerald during the Saturday night community party about this. He feels, I'm hoping I'm conveying what he said correctly. He feels that they are prepared on paper because they have a very thoroughly designed emergency response plan, which includes a community evacuation plan. He was quick to acknowledge that this is not something you can practice in the real world, like you can't a fire drill in a school because it's streets, people, traffic. You can't go out there and run a trial run. So they're anxious about actually implementing it, but he feels confident about the cut throughs on the interstate, the block design for the neighborhoods and this sequence for evacuations, if that comes to be, including places to park cars or to send people to accumulate cars once they're out of town, traffic stopping from Carbondale to Gypsum. Just they've got big things in mind. So it provided some confidence. He also specifically said it's important to start alerting the public to this possibility and to some of the details in the plan. We both acknowledge that not very many residents are going to read all 60 pages of that plan. So I'll presume to suggest that we start to think about a package of concise summary points for local residents on how to participate in this evacuation plan if and when the time comes. He suggested that that kind of PR campaign will begin in March. We last meeting also heard several spontaneous comments from council members about the out of compliance lighting in the new North Landing Park. Who is responsible for the retrofit to bring that into compliance, shades or changes in fixtures or otherwise? Is that Parks or DDA or somebody else?
So we kind of break that up a little bit. I think we did make some progress on the bollards. I don't know exactly where we are on the lights, whether or not we're going to be able to dim those a little bit more or not.
I haven't gone up to look, so something's actually been done already. I'll go look. Thank you.
I think it was all about the bollards.
Yeah, the lights, I don't know what you mean by bollards, but the short waist high lights that were glare bombs. Okay, thank you. And then finally, when and how will somebody, perhaps including city council, debrief the Saturday night party and ways that it might be made even better on another round?
It's on the schedule for the next meeting. We were going to do it tonight, but we just kind of got too full in work sessions, but we'll try to do it next meeting.
Cool deal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Councilor Schachter, comments, please.
Yeah, one unexpected one. I don't know Officer Becca from Colorado Game and Fish. I don't know her last name. But one thing we need to be, I think, acutely aware of, the bears are not sleeping this winter. Normally, we don't pay any attention to bears in town. They are out. And so,
Really?
yes, the weather has been so warm. that they are out, and I think it's important that the public be aware of that. We don't get a respite this winter like we normally do.
Good.
Yeah.
Good comment. Thank you.
The other one, more importantly, I think there's been some foreshadowing of this. I'm gonna ask for the support. I need 3 other council people to support me. I need 2 other people to support me. I'm asking, I think it is time for us to review at the higher level, policy level, our whole housing policy, not just the 2C portion. We haven't done it for quite a while. And I think it's critical that we at council concur at the policy level, what we want to then give staff and our commissions more tools and directions so they can advise us. I've put together my own initiative, kind of a little paper to help start the process, as well as some information that Steve has, so that if council supports that we do this in a workshop or workshops as needed, that we proceed with that, because I think it is timely and needed.
Question, would you suggest that we start as a workshop, or would you, and then kick it to like a P and Z and a housing commission?
We have to start, it has to start, I believe it starts with us at the very broadest policy level. Then once we concur, and you'll see from the paper I put together, there's like, it's not cast in stone, but then it goes down.
Okay.
And there'll be some review by staff as well.
Okay, so, Council Schachter is asking for, 2 more councils to support this. And I assume you guys have questions or comments on this particular item? Councilor Townsley?
Mine would just be, I support it. I think that's really something we need to do.
Excellent. Good to hear. And Councilor Smith?
I too would like to enthusiastically support this. The caveat that I feel is over the in advance projection that we're gonna just declare something and other people are gonna fill in behind. I tend to like to work the opposite direction of our experts and our delegated advisory boards bringing ideas that can be fodder for that very thoughtful discussion. Indeed, both the 2C Commission, 2C Advisory Board, and the P&Z itself are starting those deliberations. And I guess I'd like to see it a little more iterative than we declare something and ask them to fill in the blanks. Maybe that's just semantics, but I like the concept of the council being in some sequence very deliberate about a housing vision and a housing strategy.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski?
I just wanted to say, I know, Councilor you never say it, Schatzner. I know I say it wrong. Has been operating in this space for a long time and has a lot to add. So I feel like this is appropriate for us to take on.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Schmal?
Yeah, I would welcome that policy overview with the data and the facts supporting the policy arrived at once we get the study of what is the ideal. We know how many units we have now. I haven't seen the number, but we know how many hotel rooms, we know how many apartments, we know how many houses, we know how many condos. We know those numbers. We should know relatively closely how many employees there are, at least at all of the major employers. How many other support employees? So what do we have versus what do we need? And a policy that supports from the data.
So did you want to respond to anything, or
No.
I was just gonna say, so it sounds to me that a workshop is in order. I would think we'll maybe start with the framework, top level, and then kick it to wherever we think we need to kick it to get the correct information. So anytime we have a spot, I would say we'll put it on a work session. Because it sounds like you have council full support.
Thank you. There is some preliminary homework that Steve will share. It'll
Okay.
Start the conversation.
Of course there is.
Of course, the white papers, excellent. City Manager Steve Foyd.
Just a couple of quick things. Counselor Smith, I think I misunderstood your question last time, and it occurred to me after. I do think that from a fire protection perspective, we're in as good a shape as we've ever been. I've never seen our guys train as hard. We've been doing pile burns. We've been doing more mitigation. We do have plans together. I feel like we're as strong as we can be kind of going into what might be a difficult fire season. So I just wanted to add that. The other thing I have gotten, you probably have too, a number of comments about the state of the city that we did. I think there was a lot of appreciation that was extended to us when we were there. I think the crowd greatly exceeded what we ever thought we could get, how many people we thought we could get there. So we need to make a couple of changes there. And Bree's not here, so I'll say it now. I just wanted to thank her for that's a big lift. And if we've never done it before, it's a lot of uncertainty and it's a lot of pressure and it's a lot of stress. And I really appreciate how hard she worked to get everything done and everybody on our staff and you guys for showing up to do that. That's it for me.
Thank you, Steve. City Attorney Carl Hanlon.
Yeah, just one thing tonight, moving out of on the Shoshone in stream flow rights. So got the sign off from CWCB. Next phase of that is the River District filed a water rights application right after that hearing. We, just so you know, and so it doesn't freak you out if you see an article on it or something, we, as the city of Glenwood Springs, filed a statement of opposition and support. I mean, just the way the water world works, that's a responsive pleading is a statement of opposition, even if you're in support of something. Just so you know that we did that. So that we would be in that case so that we can offer our support along the way and remain engaged in that. And I just didn't want you to like read it in the paper, when there's going to be, I don't know, 100 statements of opposition, some in support and some against, obviously. Complicated case, but anyway, just giving you a heads up on that so you know that we're there and doing that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Any correspondence?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Muse. Mayor Pro Tem Zielinski.
So, to piggyback on both.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say we're
I
gonna go
am,
drink.
I am,
Oh.
I am. I know. So Counselor Smith brought up something. Our police department offers free fire mitigation consultations. All you have to.
Fire.
Did I say fire department?
No, you said police. It's okay. It's
I'm
okay.
sorry. It's been a topic.
You got it.
You don't want to do that? No, sorry. So I was gonna say, call Mina Bolton. So she's not with the fire department. So, to your point and to your point,
Right.
if people have concerns about their personal property, they will come out and walk the property and give recommendations. And potentially there may be some assistance out there.
I understand. It's a good deal. It's a very informative and very good
Yeah.
deal.
So I encourage anybody that has concerns to take advantage of that. And then socially, I think we're gonna hit Tapatio this evening.
Excellent. Thank you. If I see nothing else, I'm entertaining a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?